On today's show, we have Matthew Player, the founder and CEO of Zoneomics. What is Zoneomics? You know, when you're trying to do something in real estate and you've got to deal with the zoning data and you've got to figure out what's going to happen there, these guys basically provide zoning data and land use data. Matthew, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. Thanks for having me, Zain.
You know, firstly, I'm sure a lot of our viewers are wondering, zoning, that sounds like a headache. What is zoning? So let's dive into that.
Yep, I'd like to keep it nice and simple, but basically zoning restrictions and regulations are the way local municipalities around the world, particularly out in the US and Australia, and Canada, utilize zoning maps to control where land use can take place and certain real estate activities or any business activities or residential activity can take place, and also the form and density of development. So how big a building can be and how intensive a use of a property can take place.
Now, Matthew, I appreciate you want to keep it simple, but from my experience, and I'm sure many people who are in real estate, zoning is not simple. It can get quite daunting and complex. What are some of the challenges that exist today, and what inspired you to start Zoneomics?
Yeah, so a little bit of my background. I'm an urban planner and GIS consultant by background, and that's what I did in university, and then went into private consultancy, starting off with advising real estate developers from mom and pops doing remodeling to the largest real estate developers getting billion-dollar shopping malls and subdivisions and land releases through and commercial projects. And during the years, I kept coming across recurring issues because of a big problem, and that is that despite the collection and analysis of data becoming a key factor in all facets of real estate, the data that actually identifies what's legally possible for the use of real estate and the potential size of a building isn't being collected, analyzed, or utilized. So to sort of give you an example of that, often from a big real estate developer's point of view, you'll get friction between a city and a developer because in many cases a developer will go and purchase a site and then want to go and develop it, and they're only finding out at later stages when they're actually lodging plans that the project that they want to pursue isn't actually permitted by zoning restrictions. So either it just can't be done, or it's years and years of fighting through the city to actually make sure that project can actually take place. So this can all be front-loaded if the data actually was analyzed before the purchase takes place.
So it's not just people that have an idea and a plan to do something with the property and then find the fighting with the regulations. I understand there's also an information asymmetry aspect here. See, one thing that makes real estate really interesting and makes PropTech really exciting is there's a lot of information asymmetry. Often people make money in real estate by knowing something that someone else doesn't know, right? There's an arbitrage somewhere. Obviously, and ideally, the seller thinks they're getting a great deal and the buyer thinks they're getting a great deal, right? But sometimes people can bid on a property knowing that if they have the zoning sorted out, they can do a lot more with this building than the current owner realizes. So, I mean, I've been involved in real estate transactions where that's certainly been the case, both on the buy and sell side, where someone has a better idea and they can extract far more value from this property. And you don't instinctively think. You're looking at this business as what it is today, with its rent rolls and its net operating income, and you're selling out a multiple of that. But the sophisticated buyer realizes, wait, this community property here can be torn down and you can build a skyscraper here, or you can do you can build commercial stuff here.
And you've kind of hit on what makes me really passionate about it, is really democratizing this opportunity. They don't even have to purchase it. You've got many developers will just option up the site knowing more about it than the land, the current owner. And they don't even have to transact until they've actually gotten the permitting through, and then they transact at that stage. So what we're passionate about is that you can kind of get this sort of, when that data is available, you can kind of get this Robin Hood sort of Weeble element to this, where you're making the average real estate buyer or homeowner or investor have this, previously until now, a real estate developer usually consists in the main of a big national, real estate developer that has the resources, or even a local real estate developer who has the connections, that knows that this information, knows this is happening and can capitalize on it. Now, what we can do with this data is that everyone can be just as informed as that big developer or that national brokerage or that local real estate developer, and then act upon it. The next element will be whether now that you've connected them with that information, is connecting them with the buying power and the financing, and then you have a real investment revolution that could take place. But we obviously have PropTechs that are working on that, and maybe crypto can play a role in that itself. But the start of it is making sure everyone is on a level playing field with the information.
To give you an example that I've experienced, and this goes back to how real estate was really, or the tax laws were written by real estate people, and real estate really was a way to hold power, and the regulations and laws are built around, enriching those that have real estate, right? I was in a place, I'm not going to mention which place, I don't want to get in trouble, right? But I was in a certain place looking at property, and, talk with the town is that, the mayor of that town was able to basically bought a bunch of land, started building hotels, somehow, was able to get this person's project pushed through and their friend's project pushed through. And then, a bunch of bills passed, and suddenly there's all this money going into revitalization and infrastructure. And, the mayor of that town made a fortune. And these types of things happen all the time. So many times, the opportunity comes to invest in a project, and you wonder, like, wow, how did they get so close with in the politics here, right? Or the politics, I should say. My accent, damn it, the politics, where the city's going to build a hospital, for example, right? And it's fascinating that if the city is going to build a hospital, if the city is going to build a transportation hub, or something big is going to happen, and you get that insider information, you freely trade on it. Now, if that happened in the public stock markets, right, where you get insider information, you work at a company, for example, okay? Let's say you work at Netflix. Netflix is very open. They share their public financials internally with a big disclaimer. You share this, you're going to jail, okay? They share this data. If that data leaks out and someone trades on the data, they're going to jail. The SEC is coming down on them. Why is it in real estate it's okay? And these laws exist to protect consumers, but in real estate, it seems to be that it's okay. You can trade on this inside information, and you can make a fortune. And this is just unfortunately how real estate is. And my view is, if that information is transparent and available to everyone, then that levels the playing field. It doesn't have to be hidden, because then people and you make money because you know people. And to me, that feels wrong. It's hard for people to break into real estate if that's how things will stay.
And the issue is kind of twofold. I know you're pointing out, what might seem, the instances where a developer is, in the know and a mayor is making money. But I'll give you an example from my home in Sydney, Australia. In Australia now, it's gotten to the point, we had a very serious instance with state politicians doing that very thing back in the early 2000s and the 90s, to now when you submit a development project permit in that state, you have to submit your developer. The developer has to submit any political contributions they've made. So to try and bring a bit of transparency to it.
Wow, hold on. We just jumped over something. So they have to disclose the political contributions they've made.
Yes, and I know the city of LA has been working on this as well. It's not widespread in US practice right now in permit submitting. But yes, that's one way of kind of trying to solve it. In that particular interest, I think it's a lot of the states in Australia where it's that way, where across any jurisdiction, it's a statewide policy, but I know LA has recently implemented something like this.
And the fact that they're implementing this, the fact that it needs to be disclosed, suggests that this happens far too often.
Right.
And in other industries like big pharma, right, supporting studies and lobbying and donating lots of money, and this is how the world works. I mean, I bet you can bet actually that if it's working anywhere else, it's definitely working in real estate, right? Like real estate's going to be the testing bed for all types of business dynamics, and one of those dynamics definitely is the political connections and the contributions you can make. But it's good to see that's changing.
Yes, but it goes a little step further. Even this, so we think about the process of how that next non-urban land next to where you've currently got residential land in an area, or you've got rural farming area, and how that land release happens. It's usually flagged, but usually by the time it's flagged on a strategic plan, it's kind of been talked about for a while and moved around. But at some point, it starts to become where they have to make it, public exhibition, where they do the land use planning, the future land use plan. It goes up for public exhibition. There's clear processes that take place, and then eventually it gets rezoning. There's other things like spot rezoning, which we can get into, where there's more issues around that. And I know certain cities try and claim they don't do spot rezoning and those things, but what we will say is, even when the biggest issue that Zoneomics is at least trying to start with is, even when a city does make their information publicly available, that it goes and lives and dies in a PDF document. It's all analog, that just sits there either in the city center, or if it finally gets put up, put up on a website, it lives and dies in a PDF that eventually, it's not analog, it's not searchable, it's not easily available like you see with the stock market, where anyone can go on Robinhood or a Bloomberg terminal and get access to that information. It is available. It's just that it lives in a PDF document. It's not searchable. It's not standardized, and it's in multiple different websites. So in the US, we're talking about 19,000 different municipalities or more, 3,000 different counties that all have different systems and different PDFs where they're saying where the future of this city's going.